Are you ready to learn more about God's amazing story for the Waodani? Well, let's first meet Jim Elliot. Jim grew up in Portland, Oregon, and the children in his family were just like the kids in Nate Saint's family. They were given lots of freedom and encouraged to be independent and adventurous. Jim's family also loved Jesus and often hosted missionaries at their home. It was at dinner with these guests from around the world that Jim learned of the great need for missionaries. More than half the world had never heard of Jesus. Jim desired to bring them the good news and teach them how to keep sharing Jesus with others in their community. But where did God want Jim to go? He wasn't sure at first, but after college, he went to Wycliffe Bible Translators. And there, one of his teachers shared with him about the Quechua Indians in Ecuador and Peru, and about the nearby Auca tribe. They were the most feared and one of the hardest to reach native groups anywhere in the world. Oh God, Jim prayed, please may I be part of your plan to bring Jesus to the Auca. Well, Jim had a couple of other friends at Bible college, Ed McCully and Pete Fleming. And in time, all three of them and their families ended up heading to the Amazon jungle. There they met Roger and Barbara Udarian and the Saints. It was Nate and Marge Saint who kept them all connected. Whenever possible, Nate would fly the families to their villages and deliver any supplies they needed. On board Nate's yellow plane and at each mission station was a shortwave radio. Back at the main base, Marge Saint would check in with each family every day to ensure that they were safe and to find out how Nate could help them and those they were serving. Whenever these missionaries got together, inevitably the talk landed on the Auca. They desired to figure out a way to reach them and share the good news of Jesus with them. But what could they do? They knew they needed to be careful, but their desire was to teach them how to live in love, how to serve God and love others and each other, and not to live in a constant cycle of fear and hatred and revenge. Well, in time, they came up with a 5-point plan called Operation Auca. First, they needed to know exactly where the Auca were living, since they often moved around in the jungle. Nate would fly his yellow airplane around and search for them among the jungle. Next, they needed to let the Auca know that they were friendly. Well, they decided that everybody likes gifts, and since the Auca were a Stone Age tribe, they decided some nice shiny metal pots and pans and a machete to cut down trees would be the perfect gift to get their attention. Third, they needed to learn how to communicate with the Auca. God took care of this problem. Nate Saint's sister, Rachel, also was a missionary nearby. And on one of her visits, she told Nate that one of the Auca women, Dayuma, had fled the tribe and was now living with nearby Quechua. Jim Elliot volunteered to go visit Dayuma to also learn more about the Auca and how to communicate with them. Fourth, this mission would need to be top secret. Nobody, not even Rachel, could find out what they were doing. Lots of people were curious about the Auca and wanted to meet them. And the missionaries were concerned that if someone else discovered the Auca first, either the Auca would get frightened and run and hide further in the jungle, or someone would get killed. They wanted to make sure they were the first ones to reach the Auca with a message of love through Jesus. Finally, the missionaries knew that they needed to be careful, but they also pledged that they would not fight back if the Auca attacked them. They were willing to sacrifice their own lives and not add to the cycle of killing. Well, Nate Saint had been in the Amazon for 7 years, and it wasn't until now that God finally helped him discover an Auca village. For the next 13 weeks, the other men took turns flying with Nate. They dropped off gifts through the bucket system. They leaned out and waved hello from the airplane, and they called out some of the phrases that Jim had learned, meaning, "We like you. We want to come visit you." Finally, the time had come. Nate had found a small beach where he could land his plane. With many trips, he brought the men and their supplies in, and they took 3 days waiting for some Auca to show up. And all the time they crossed the river and called out into the jungle, "We're your friends. We want to meet you. We like you." And finally, 3 Waodani emerged, 1 man and 2 women. Oh, the missionaries were overjoyed. They threw a party. They grilled hamburgers. They poured Kool-Aid. They played games. They did anything they could think of to help these 3 Waodani know that they were friendly. They nicknamed the man George, and George surprised the missionaries. He hopped into Nate's plane. "Oh, so you want to go for a ride," said Nate. He strapped George in and off they flew over the Auca village. Now it was George's turn to hang out the airplane and call down to his friends, "Look at me, I'm in the would-be." We later learned that the Auca called the airplane, which they had never seen one before Nate started flying over their village, a would-be because of the buzzing sound it made when it flew over their village. Well, they brought George back to the beach, and in time the 3 Waodani went back into the jungle. That night, Nate needed to bring the airplane back to the main base where it would be safe overnight, and he excitedly told the women about their adventures with the 3 Waodani that afternoon. The next morning, he headed out early and promised Marge that he would call back on the radio by 4:30 in the afternoon. Now, I don't have any more time tonight to continue this story, so come back next week and we'll learn the next part of God's amazing plan.